Hey, Tom here, FlipAnything USA. So on my channel I share my experiences as a real estate investor. I started at 19 years old in the early 1980s and made tens of millions of dollars doing this stuff. It's a great way to make a living. And today I'm going to talk about the recession. When I started, the investments that I made then. I'll be right back and I'm going to tell you that story. I think you're going to enjoy it a lot.
Don't stop and listen. Time is on a mission to eliminate all the snake oil and the fake gurus that fake y'all. He'll show you how to build an empire, starting with nothing but a desire. All you really need is a good mentor, not a used car bullshit. With time, you'll learn to crush it. Investing like Warren Buffett. With real estate, you cannot procrastinate. Everyone who hesitates is left at the starting gate. Hey, yo, so don't delay and join today. The mentorship and flip anything. USA, go.
What I want to tell you about is some of the adversities that I had. First of all, I didn't have any money. I didn't have any credit, but I had a fire in me. And so I made some cards that said, I buy houses for $50,000 or less, okay? And listen, I had hair down to here. I had terrible allergies. I had bloodshot eyes. I looked like I was stoned. I looked like what you call a stoner back then, but I wasn't. I just looked like one, okay? I just had bloodshot eyes and bad allergies and long hair. And so, in hindsight, I realized it was a bit of an obstacle, to overcome. But really, it's just like right now. Here, I'm sitting in a jacuzzi. I look disheveled and old, but you can tell by the content that I'm sharing with you. I think you can discern intelligent conversation and valuable gems and important stuff. And guess what? They could too at 19. When I talk to people, they can understand this guy knows what he's talking about. He understands math and he's going to deliver the job on time. And really, that's all that matters. So those of you who don't have confidence in yourself, listen, have confidence in yourself. Most people at first glance at me, I look like a plumber's helper, but I'm richer than everybody in the room usually. So don't ever be fooled by looks for anybody. You can listen to what comes out of their mouth. Anyways, back to the story. So I had handed these cards out, and back then the realtors they like to have like a kind of like a call name. I remember there was one guy, Bruce Hailstone, the voice of real estate, and he had a big baritone voice. Nice guy, funny guy. And then there was Dan McMahon, who's the subject of this one. Dan McMahon, he called himself the gentleman realtor. Okay, and then there was like the singing realtor, and there was all kinds of goofy, how they put on their cards and the way they presented themselves. And so anyways, Dan McMahon was generally a really nice guy, and he was in hindsight, I think he was a fairly green, real estate agent. But he got my card, and the other agents I'd hand my card to, some of them would laugh and they go, "Oh, you buy houses under $50,000? Yeah, me too." And I'd say, "Well, if you get one that you can't afford, or you get too many of them, let me know and give me a call." So, but I made an impression by talking to people and taking time, and that's what you should do too. Everybody should do that. You got to take time to talk to people. That's part of the investment that you make. That there's no guaranteed return, but there's a chance. Okay, and there's a chance. So, anyways. I get a call, and it's Dan, and he says, "Hey, I got a house, and I think they want $50,000. He goes, "I think that'll do it." I said, "I'm on my way." And this is a time where there wasn't even cell phones. I had walkie-talkies. I had I had a fax machine. That was as great as it got. I remember I had a mobile phone, but it was like a transportable. At that time, I don't think I had it, but it was as big as a lunchbox. I probably got it a couple of years after that. But we had beepers and shit like that. So anyways, but he called me. He caught me at my office, and I said, "I'm on my way." And between his office and where I was going, Avenue H8, this is in Lancaster, which is about as crappy as Compton, California now. It's actually worse than Compton. They have a bigger jail, so they have more thugs and scum and criminals there than even Compton does now. But back then it wasn't so bad. It was an agricultural town. So anyways, I run over there. I drive by the house on the way, and I'm like thrilled. It must have been a 2,000 square foot house. It looked great from the road. Just drove on past, went straight in, sat down with these people, and I said, "Look, I'll give you $50,000 if you'll carry terms, or I'll give you $34,000 cash." And I didn't have any money. I could put $500 deposit down or something like that. And they said, "Well, let's go look at the house." So, because I only drove by it, and that was clear that I hadn't been inside yet. And so they follow me over there. We get in there. We pull into the driveway. There's junky cars and stuff. And, they just open the door and we go into the house. I mean, it's as disgusting as the house that I'm buying this week, which is kind of funny, right? It's like a 40-year anniversary from my first purchase, or 40-year anniversary on the purchase of what would be this house. So this house was so unbelievably gross, and so is the one that I'm buying this week, by the way. And I'll show you guys some of that stuff too, probably in the next video. But so I walk in and I look around the corner, and the couches are like just not against the wall. One's against the wall, one's kind of crooked, and there are two like really nasty looking bums that are drugged out, and there's their father. He doesn't even know who these guys are probably. And he's just sitting on the couch half asleep, and he might have had Alzheimer's, I don't know. I wasn't really paying much attention to him. I was so excited about getting this real estate. But you could tell, old man kind of out of it, two creepy dudes that and this is his daughter and her husband walking through with me and the realtor. And they're like, oh God, we got to get Dad out of this shithole. And so I remember very distinctly walking into the living room, and now off to the left, we go into the living room a little deeper, and then the kitchen is around the corner and on the left. And you could go all the way through the kitchen back into a hallway that would take you to the water closet where all the other stuff is. So we walked into the kitchen. The stove was pulled away from the wall. There was literally grease about a half-inch deep in the pans that were on the stove, which was pulled away from the wall, and there were like dead cockroaches. It looked like the Cadillac Ranch. It was just dead cockroaches stuck in grease. And I'm like loving it, to be honest. But anyways, I'm like, oh my God, yeah. But I mean, it was pretty despicable. And of course, the family are like, oh my God, this Dad is in this filthy hole, And so also on the cabinets were almost coming away from the wall because there was like cockroaches crawling in behind the cabinets. So it's like, well, okay. So we walk on through the kitchen, and now we walk kind of back through this hallway that kind of took you back toward the front door. It was actually a pretty cool floor plan, by the way. And so we walk there, and then there's a pair of double doors. And this is in my book, by the way, which if you don't have my book, be sure to get this book. Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. It's really the story how I made my first $1 million by 27. That was a long time ago, folks. But it's still applicable today, and I do the same thing. Get an Amazon Kindle and all that sort of thing. Anyways, back to the story. So I go over there, and I go to open the closet, right? And it doesn't open. And I got the realtor and the daughter and her husband, and like pulling it first, right? And so then I go, okay, and I really pull on it. And boom, it opens up, and we all get showered in cockroaches. I mean, on top of the head. I remember looking on everybody, and the woman just screamed and goes, get me out of here. And she just ran out. And I'm like astonished because I'm looking at the walls, and it's like the walls are moving because there's that many cockroaches. They just covered the wall and inside that opening. So, she just runs straight out the door, and husband goes to calm her down, and the realtor's like right behind him, and I'm right behind him. And they said, let's just write it up. You can have it for $34,000 cash. And it's like, great. So we run over to the office. We write it up. I sign it. I got it. It's mine for $34,000 cash. The only thing is, I don't have the money. Okay, I don't have the money. No big deal, though. I'm not even worried about it because I know it's such a good deal. And that's how you should feel, too. What separates you from making money in real estate, it's not really the money, it's the deal. And that's what I teach you how to do in my mentorship and also in my book. So anyways, we get there, we make the deal, and so I'm looking for money. And so my grandma had actually loaned me a little bit of money for some tools, like a few $1,000s for tools for my cabinet shop. So I knew she was tapped, and so that wasn't going to happen. So I had a friend of mine, Dan Compton was his name actually. I hadn't talked to him in many, many years. Anyways, he was a computer programmer. And this is like in the 1980s. So this is new stuff, right? He was like a cutting edge guy. and but he was a computer programmer. So Dan made a lot of money, but he made terrible investments. He had a nice home, but I would see the stuff he'd buy. He had like 20 cars at one time. Like, what the hell are you doing with all these cars? And none of it never really made much sense. But anyways, he was excited, and so I said, hey, listen, I got this deal. You put up the money, we'll split the money. He said, man, I'm in. And so he actually had a little trouble raising the money, but we did get the money together, and we buy it. So let's talk about some of the setbacks. So I get this thing done. I had a little bit of resource, and this is one of the good things about when you have a business, if you had some manpower. So I got to clean this place out. I open up the garage door, and it is like 3 or 4 feet deep. This is the weirdest thing, of wheels, wheelchair wheels, bicycle wheels, casters, just every kind of wheel you can possibly imagine, car wheels, truck wheels, every kind of wheel. It was weird. And so I got my guys, I said, man, just pull everything out. I got one of those 40-yard dumpsters, throw everything in the dumpster. So they're pulling this stuff out, and one of them had a rat run up his leg. And so he screamed and almost quit. And then, but then they went and they taped their pants closed around their ankles so that nothing could run up their legs anymore. And they pulled up, they're throwing that away. So the garage gets cleaned out. Next, go in, just, I didn't even think about having the power turned on, right? So I'm pulling up to the house. Actually, I'd already almost immediately, got bug bombs, right? The bug, just tons of bug bombs. I think I had somebody else do that one, actually. So I had it bug bomb, and I knew I had to stay out of there for like 24 hours. And so I'm coming by after work. It's dark, work late, just like I'm talking to you late right now. I always work late. Anyways, I get up there and I go, porch light doesn't work. I go to, get in the door. The power's off. The utilities didn't get changed. They had the power shut off. So I can't see anything. And of course, there's no cell phone, there's no light. So I just open the door and I'm just trying to, do the best I can with the moonlight. And first step I take, it's crunch, crunch, crunch. Everywhere I walked through the house, I was stepping on dead cockroaches. There must have been 10,000 cockroaches. It was unbelievably covered. And I couldn't see them. I could just hear them. I knew they were there. So, of course, I just leave, lock it up, come back the next day, and I can just see it. It's unbelievable. We're literally just dustpans. You don't even need a broom. Just scrape it across the, like a shovel, picking up snow. There were so many of them. So load all that stuff in, get the house cleaned up. Next point of business is I get it painted. The inside the house, that was the first impression I didn't tell you about. When you walk in the house, it went from like almost white baseboards, and it slowly just turned into a darker, like a caramel cover, till the top was just a dark nicotine brown. And it was that bad from smoke. And so was this other house I'm buying this week. So anyways, get that. I get the whole place, I patched the walls, and there wasn't really much patching. It was really pretty clean. Had it painted, and I was like, oh man, this thing's already, it had beautiful wood floors too. I remember the wood floors were beautiful. So I'm like, great, this is going to be easy money. I'm ready to put it back on the market for like $65,000. We're going to make 30 grand or something close like that. And I come back the next day after it's just about done, just about ready. And I go, oh, that's funny. I look like condensation on all my windows. Oh, what is that? I can't see it. Just looked kind of white and wet, and it just like condensation is what I thought it was. And so I open the door, and there is paint all over the oak floors. I walk down into the halls. There's paint sloshed onto the walls, which now is texture because it's paint dried onto the walls. And then as I walk into the individual bedrooms, the windows are painted. And I'm like, what in the hell? It's a huge setback. And I go outside, and I don't know if it was that day or the next day, but I start, I'm looking for anybody that knows anything. I'm asking kids. Well, I asked some kids on bicycles. I said, hey, you guys know anything about this? I'm trying to figure out who did this. And they go, oh, we know who did it. And they rat out the kid that did it. And I find that kid, and I get him over, and I talk to him. I'm recording him while he's talking to him. He's telling me what he did. Don't tell my dad and this and that. Well, I get the recording. I go over, and I talk to his dad, and I say, listen, this is going to cost me like, $2,000. I say, I got to scrape all this stuff off the walls. I got to retexture. And he gives me $100. He worked at Burmite, which was like a a plant that made explosive, and he was a nice guy. He was really kind of like my, kind of a lower middle class income, kind of had half an eye closed, and it was kind of a goofy guy, but nice guy. And he just laughed about it. Oh yeah, well, I'll get you paid. Well, that was the only $100 I ever got from him. And he said, man, I'd really like to have that tape of my kid telling you the story. I'd really like to have that tape. And I said, man, when you're done paying me, I'll give it to you. Of course, I never saw him again. And I might even have that tape somewhere. That'd be funny if I still had that tape. But anyways, so that was a huge setback. Again, and this is one of the reasons it's so important for you to buy under market, because you can have setbacks. You can have setbacks that are higher interest rate, economy going to shit, all these kinds of things. Your hedge against, bad things, setbacks is a margin of profit that is healthy. So, anyways, long story short, got it cleaned up, got it fixed, put it on the market, sold it for I think $65,000, and so what did I pay? $34,000. I must have had $6,000 in it after the mess that they made. So, so we made maybe $22,000. I split that with him, and then I went on to, I bought a couple more houses with Dan, and he actually wanted to keep the houses, and if there was $15,000 equity in what the deal that I'd find, I started finding more property, and I'd have Dan as my income, and and it's for maybe 4 houses, and before you know it, he wanted to keep some of the houses, so he'd buy me out after we got the deal. We could estimate the equity, and he'd give me half, and then I was done. I had $45,000 of my own. I didn't need him anymore. Next house I bought after that, and I bought several after that, but I mean, a few after buying with him, I didn't need him anymore. Okay, I gotta go, guys. Man, that's the story. Hey, please keep watching. Battery's about to go dead. See y'all later. Take care.